Hi, I'm Derek, 32, and 3 weeks ago, my 6-year-old son reached for a juice box at a family dinner, and my mother took it out of his hands and gave it to my sister's kid instead. You can drink tap water, she told him, like he was some stray dog begging for scraps. My father added, he should learn not everything is for him. Without even glancing up from the menu. My son didn't say a word. Just sat there with his hands folded in his lap, shoulders shrunk in, eyes on the table. I didn't argue. I didn't cause a scene. I said one word. All right. Then I waited. When the bill dropped, I stood. What I did next turned every face at that table the color of chalk. Let me back up. I've always been the reliable one. Steady. That was the word my father used when I got my first job out of college. Not brilliant. Not impressive. Just steady. I work as a project manager at a tech firm. I bought my own place 3 years ago. I've raised my son, Charlie, alone since his mom left when he was still in diapers. I don't complain. I show up. I help. I pay. My sister Monica lives near my parents. 3 kids, stays at home, husband with a decent job. Yet somehow, every time there's a gap, car repair, school trip, vacation shortfall, my parents call me. For years I answered. For years I paid. For years I told myself it was family, and family meant support, not keeping score. But that night at the restaurant, that was the last straw. See, Charlie is quiet. Thoughtful. Gentle. He doesn't throw tantrums, doesn't ask for much. He's used to being the afterthought. At Christmas, his cousins got new bikes. He got a $1 coloring book. He smiled anyway. Because that's the kind of kid he is. But no kid should have to learn that love comes in rations. So I booked a reservation at Maroni's, an upscale place downtown. White tablecloths, jazz in the background, folded napkins shaped like swans. I picked it because my mom asked for somewhere nice, and I thought, for once, let's do something special. Something memorable. Maybe this would be the time things felt different. Charlie wore his striped button-up. He was excited. This place is fancy, he whispered when we arrived early. I told him, you deserve fancy. That smile he gave me, I'll never forget it. Then came the rest of them. My parents. Polished. Cold. Quick hugs. Monica's family. Late. Loud. Her kids ran in like they owned the place. Monica hugged Mom like it was a reunion after years apart. Never mind, they had lunch 2 days prior. No one said hi to me. Not a word. We sat. Ordered. Charlie chose ravioli. He was so careful with the menu. The waiter smiled. Good choice, young man. Then my mother asked for juice boxes, for Monica's kids only. When the waiter brought 4, one was placed in front of Charlie. Before he could even touch it, my mother reached across and took it. Gave it to Monica's daughter. My son just looked down. Didn't cry. Didn't protest. Just folded his hands in his lap like he'd been taught his whole life to take up as little space as possible. And that was it. The moment something in me broke. Quietly. Finally. So when the bill came, $3.40 plus tip, I didn't raise my voice. I didn't call them out. I just opened the leather folder, reviewed the charges, then asked the waiter. Split this bill. 2 items, ravioli and pasta primavera. Everything else? 1 check. And then I placed that $300 plus check right in front of my father. I looked him in the eye and said, this one's yours. And then, well, you already know, the room went dead silent. My father's face went red so fast I thought he might pass out. He stared at the bill like it was written in a foreign language. My mother set her coffee cup down a little too hard. Derek, she hissed like I just spat in the soup. Monica finally pulled her eyes off her phone. Are you serious right now? Greg leaned back in his chair, arms crossed. You're splitting the bill? Here? I nodded. Yes. But we didn't bring our wallets, Monica said like it was a magic spell that should make the problem vanish. I didn't flinch. Then maybe you shouldn't have ordered the lobster tail and rack of lamb. My mother let out a brittle laugh, all nerves and denial. Don't be ridiculous. We're family. Exactly, I said. So you should have no problem paying for yourselves. The waiter returned with 2 checks, one for $28, mine and Charlie's, and one for the rest. I signed mine. Added a generous tip. Handed it back. Then I placed the second check in front of my father. Greg scoffed. You make more money than any of us. And somehow I'm the only one expected to pretend that means I'm the wallet for 7 other people. I said. Monica's chair screeched as she stood. This is insane. You embarrassed us. No, I said, calm as ever. You embarrassed my son. The silence after that was heavier than anything. My mother looked stunned. My father opened his mouth, then closed it. Monica looked down like she was finally processing what she'd seen. Charlie sitting there without dessert, without a juice box, without a single ounce of attention from the people who supposedly loved him. I turned to Charlie, who had barely moved. Ready to go, buddy? He nodded and took my hand. We walked out. Just like that. No dramatics. No yelling. Just done. Behind us, chaos. My mom's voice getting sharp. My father barking at the waiter. Greg and Monica arguing. The kids yelling. But I didn't look back. In the car, Charlie asked me, "Dad, are they mad at us?" I crouched down to his level, buckled him in, and said, "They're mad at themselves. Not us." He thought about that, then nodded. Okay. And just like that, he was fine. But me? I was wide awake all night. While Charlie slept peacefully, I sat at the kitchen table replaying every moment of my life where I had been the dependable one. The steady one. The silent supporter. And how that never translated to being seen. I thought about birthdays where Monica got a party and I got a handshake. Holidays where she received gifts and I got, "We'll do something later." Years of handing over cash while being told I should be grateful to help. And Charlie, sweet, kind Charlie, already learning how to shrink himself to avoid disappointment. That was the part one couldn't forgive. By dawn, I had made a decision. First, I opened my banking apps and began unlinking. Their utility bills? Removed. Car insurance? Cancelled. Streaming profiles? Deleted. Passwords changed. No calls. No warnings. Just quiet clicks and confirmations. And when the messages started flooding in, texts from my mother asking why the internet wasn't working, from my father about the insurance cancellation, I didn't answer. I didn't feel guilty. I just felt free. That weekend, I took Charlie to the park. We fed ducks. We got ice cream. We read 3 new books at bedtime. And when he looked up and said, "I like it when it's just us," I smiled and said, "Me too." Because for the first time in my life, I wasn't waiting to be valued. I had found my worth, in the eyes of my son. 2 weeks after the restaurant, my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Missed calls. Voicemails. Texts stacking up like unpaid bills. My parents were frantic. My mother's tone swung from guilt trips to full-on begging. My father went straight for threats. "You'll regret this, we took care of you, family doesn't turn its back." Monica, of course, played the wounded martyr. "You've humiliated Mom. She's crying every day. We needed that money. You're punishing everyone just because you're bitter." But I didn't respond. Not a word. Not because I was being petty. Because I was done. I wasn't angry anymore. I was exhausted. That Saturday, while Charlie was at a friend's birthday party, I did something I should have done years ago. I opened a fresh folder on my computer and titled it Family Expenses. Then I started digging. 3 years of bank statements. Every transfer. Every Venmo. Every autopay. Every forgotten favor that ended up on my shoulders. I logged them, categorized them, and stared at the running total as it climbed like an elevator with no roof. Rent payments for their house during tight months? $4,000. Utility bills I'd quietly covered for 2 years. $2,300. My mom's car repairs? $1,700. Last-minute plane tickets for birthday parties I wasn't even invited to? $3,200. Medical copays? $800. Streaming services, phone bills, groceries ordered to their house. All mine. Random. Just till next payday. Loans? Another $5,500. Grand total, $21,400. And that didn't even include the emotional toll, the birthdays missed, the thank yous never said, the years spent chasing approval like a dog waiting for scraps. I printed it all. Screenshots. Emails. Texts. Receipts. I filled a physical folder 2 inches thick. Proof that I hadn't been cold or cruel. I'd been a damn lifeline. I didn't make the folder to send it to them. I made it for myself. So that next time the guilt tried to creep back in, I could open it and remember, I gave. I gave until it bled. That Monday, I met with my financial advisor. Told him I wanted to restructure everything. A trust for Charlie. No one else. Not 1 cent to anyone who didn't earn it. Not anymore. Later that week, Charlie and I cooked dinner together. Spaghetti, his choice. He stirred the sauce and told me about a kid at school who could do a perfect cartwheel. We laughed when the noodles boiled over. We high-fived when he remembered to set the table without being asked. That night I tucked him into bed. He asked, "Are Grandma and Grandpa still mad?" I said, "I don't know, buddy. Do we still love them?" That one stopped me. Yes, I said after a long pause. We love them. But sometimes loving someone doesn't mean letting them hurt you. He blinked up at me, taking it in. Then he nodded. Okay. That was the moment I knew he was going to be okay, too. The next Thursday evening, around dinner time, someone knocked on the door. I checked the peephole. It was them. My parents. I didn't feel dread. I didn't feel fear. I felt ready. I opened the door, blocking the entrance with my body. We need to talk, my mother said, her voice tight. You're cutting us off, my father added. Like we're strangers. You cut yourselves off, I said. I'm just cleaning up the mess. They demanded explanations. I gave them truth. No yelling. No breakdowns. Just, you made my son feel like less than. And I won't allow that anymore. And when my father tried to guilt me, I didn't flinch. You're not angry because I abandoned you, I told him. You're angry because I stopped funding you. And then, for the first time in my life, I told my parents no. And I meant it. I didn't let them in. I stood in the doorway, one hand resting on the frame, blocking any chance of a foot over the threshold. My mother clutched her purse like it was armor. My father crossed his arms like he was still the one in control. But they weren't here to talk. Not really. They were here because the utilities had been shut off, the car insurance had lapsed, and there was no one left to bail them out. You can't just cut us off, my father said. That's not how family works. No, I said. It's not. But apparently it's how this family works. My mother's lips trembled. We raised you. We gave you everything. That line? I nearly laughed. You gave Monica everything, I said. You gave me expectations. And bills. That's not true. She started. I cut her off. You took a juice box from Charlie and gave it to Monica's kid. Do you understand that? It wasn't about the juice. It was the message. He's less than. He doesn't deserve the same. You taught him that. My father shook his head like I was twisting the story. He needs to learn that life isn't always fair. And I need to teach him that love is fair. That respect should be mutual. That if someone keeps taking from you and giving nothing back, it's okay to walk away. They looked stunned. Not because they didn't understand. Because they finally realized I wasn't bluffing. I'm not sending more money. I'm not covering more bills. I'm not pretending anymore. My mother's voice cracked. Are you saying we're not part of your life anymore? I looked her in the eyes. I'm saying if you want to be, you show up as family. Not as people with open palms. You want to be in Charlie's life? Remember his birthday. Ask about school. Treat him like he matters. You want to be in mine? Respect the fact that I'm not just a bank account with your last name. They didn't speak. For once, they were quiet. I'm not asking for anything. I continued. I'm just not giving everything anymore. You decide what happens next. My mother wiped her eyes. My father looked away, jaw tight. I took a breath. And for the record? I didn't walk away. I stood up. Then I stepped back, slowly closing the door. Derek, my mother whispered. I paused. We'll try, she said. Her voice was barely audible. We didn't realize. Yes, I said. You did. You just didn't care enough to stop. And I shut the door. I stood there for a long moment, hand on the doorknob, breathing slow and steady. Behind me, the quiet hum of the dishwasher. The smell of tomato sauce. The low sound of Charlie in his room talking to his action figures. I didn't check the peephole again. I didn't watch them leave. I locked the door and walked back to the kitchen. Charlie peeked out. Who was that? Grandma and Grandpa, I said. He frowned. Are they staying for dessert? No, I said. They had to go. Okay, he shrugged. Can I have ice cream? Absolutely. We sat on the couch watching cartoons, bowls of chocolate ice cream melting slowly in our laps. Charlie laughed at something animated and absurd. I just watched him. My son. My whole family. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel tension behind my smile. I didn't feel bitterness curled in my gut. I felt peace. 2 months passed. No calls. No surprise visits. No sudden emergencies, with dollar signs attached. Just silence. And I didn't chase it. Monica sent one final text. You destroyed this family. I read it. Then I deleted it. A mutual friend told me my parents sold the house I grew up in. Too expensive without me footing the utilities. My dad picked up part-time work. My mom clipped coupons. They were surviving. Just differently now. As for Monica, the real world finally knocked. No more backup plans. No more free babysitting, no more luxury vacations funded by guilt and direct deposit. One of her kids even had to switch from private school to public. The horror. I didn't gloat. I didn't care. They made their choices. I just stopped paying for them. Charlie and I built a new rhythm. Sunday pancakes. Friday night movie marathons. A hike every other weekend. I tucked him in every night with a book and a kiss on the forehead. I started saying no at work, too. No to late-night calls. No to projects dumped on my desk at 4:59 p.m. No to being everything for everyone. At first, people were surprised. Everything okay at home? My boss asked. Yes, I said. Better than okay. One Saturday at the park, Charlie and I kicked a soccer ball back and forth until we were breathless. The ball rolled toward another family nearby. A man, maybe early 40s, his own kid at his side, kicked it back gently. Nice pass, he said to Charlie. Charlie grinned. Thanks. I waved at the man. He waved back. Just a small moment. A normal one. But in that moment I thought, this is family. Not the ones who demand, who take, who twist love into obligation. Family is the people who see you. Who choose you. Who make space for you without expecting a receipt. And right now, that's just me and Charlie. And that's more than enough. 3 months after the restaurant, I got an email from Charlie's school. Just a regular parent-teacher reminder. Conference slots now open. I clicked the link, picked the earliest one, and typed, Derek, will be there. Thanks. It was such a simple thing, but it made me pause. 3 months ago, I would have forwarded the email to my mom. She used to go to those. I convinced myself it was because she was close by, or had more time, or, if I'm honest, because I didn't feel like I had permission to be fully present as Charlie's dad. That feels shameful to admit now, but it's true. For so long, I lived like my parents had to co-sign my parenthood, like I couldn't just be the person Charlie needed without checking in with the people who barely saw me. But that part of my life is over now. Quietly, completely over. Since I closed the door in their faces, I've been lighter. I don't mean that in some poetic, dramatic way. I mean literally. I sleep better. My back doesn't ache in the mornings. I've lost 5 pounds without changing anything. My body knows the difference between tension and peace better than I do. My phone barely buzzes now. Monica's final message, "You destroyed this family," still sits unread in my deleted folder. I haven't bothered to clear it out. That sentence doesn't sting the way she hoped. It just confirms what I knew all along. They didn't care about me, they cared about the system I held up. I think about that folder in my drawer sometimes. The one with all the receipts, all the bank statements, every line of proof that I was never just the ungrateful son they'd claim I became. But I haven't opened it since the day I closed it. I don't need the proof anymore. Not when I have this: Saturday pancakes, Charlie laughing in the kitchen, chocolate chips burning slightly on the griddle because I always forget to turn the heat down. We've created a new tradition. Adventure Sundays. Nothing extravagant. One weekend we walked through a nature trail near the reservoir. Another, we rode the subway just to ride it, watching stations blur by like we were in a movie montage. Last Sunday, Charlie wanted to go to the Science Museum. We spent 3 hours there. He asked 1,000 questions. At one point, he grabbed my sleeve and said, "Dad, do you think stars miss each other when they explode?" I blinked at him. What? Like, if they're best friends. Do stars miss each other? I laughed, but he was serious. And I looked at him and thought, he's 6, and already so much more empathetic than anyone who's ever raised me. That night, I called my financial advisor again. I asked him to move up the date for finalizing the trust. I wanted Charlie's future airtight. No loopholes. No way for anyone to show up later and stake a claim. The advisor asked, "What about contingencies? Godparents? Extended family?" "No," I said. "No one else." And I meant it. I've started building a will, too. Nothing dramatic, just making sure that what I've earned goes exactly where it's supposed to. I've already told Charlie's godparents, friends, not blood, what I'm planning. They cried when I said it, which told me everything I needed to know. People who cry when asked to love your child. That's family. Charlie doesn't ask about grandma and grandpa anymore. He hasn't mentioned Monica or her kids since the dinner. I think he understands something I never understood as a child, that love should feel safe, not like a performance. Sometimes I wonder if they miss him. My parents, I mean. But the answer doesn't matter. Because they had the chance to know him. And they blew it. One evening, we were making grilled cheese sandwiches and Charlie asked, "Why don't we see Grandma anymore?" I hesitated. "Do you miss her?" He thought about it, chewing on the edge of the bread he was holding. "Not really," he said finally. She made me feel small. Like I wasn't really there. That hit me hard. Because that was exactly how they used to make me feel. And I realized I had stopped the cycle. Right then. With one decision. I had ended the legacy of silence and shame. And I had replaced it with something better. Me and Charlie. Butter-fried bread. Melted cheese. A father and son at the kitchen table, laughing with mouths full and fingers greasy, no one telling us to be less, to give more, to apologize for taking up space. It's not just peace I found. It's home. About a week after that grilled cheese night, I finally did what I'd been thinking about for months. I opened that folder. The one I'd labeled family expenses. The 2-inch thick stack of receipts, statements, emails, all of it. I sat at my desk, took one last look, and started shredding every single page. Not out of spite. Out of release. Because I no longer needed proof. I knew the truth. And even more importantly, I had stopped letting that truth define me. Charlie was in his room reading when I finished. He peeked out the door when he heard the shredder and asked, "Are we getting rid of something?" "Yeah," I said. "Something old." He nodded and said, "Cool." Then disappeared again. I stood there for a moment, hand resting on the lid of the shredder bin, thinking about what a gift it is to raise a child who feels secure enough not to dig for answers every time something leaves. That's when I realized how much had changed. There was a time I would have kept that folder forever, just in case. In case they came back. In case they denied it. In case I needed to defend myself. But now I understood the freedom that comes with not needing to explain yourself. The next week, parent-teacher conferences rolled around. I showed up early, took notes, asked questions. Charlie's teacher said he was kind, curious, respectful. She said, "He has such a strong moral compass for his age. He looks out for the quieter kids." I almost choked up. Afterward, Charlie and I went out for pancakes, his request, even though it was dinner time. We sat in a booth, just the two of us, splitting a stack bigger than his head. He talked nonstop about planets, and how Pluto deserved to be a planet again, and why some jellyfish could glow. He didn't ask about his grandparents. He didn't ask why they weren't there. Because he didn't need them. Because he had me. And I was finally enough. That weekend, we did something new. We started a little garden on our apartment balcony. Nothing huge. Just a few pots, basil, cherry tomatoes, a strawberry plant he begged for. Charlie painted the pots with goofy faces and labeled them Mr. Basil, Tommy Tomato, Berry. Every morning now, he waters them before school. He says, "Good morning, plants," and checks for new growth like a scientist on a mission. It's small, but it's his. Ours. Sometimes I wonder if my parents will try again. If they'll knock on my door with sad eyes and new apologies. Maybe they will. Maybe they won't. But if they do, I know what I'll say. I'll say, "He doesn't need you. Because you taught him that your love comes with conditions. And I taught him that mine never will." It took me 32 years to understand what family really is. It's not about blood. It's about who shows up. And more importantly, who stays. Last night, Charlie and I sat out on the balcony with mugs of hot cocoa, the kind with the tiny marshmallows that melt too fast. The city lights flickered around us. Somewhere down the block, someone was playing jazz from their window. It felt like a quiet ending to a long, messy chapter. Charlie leaned against me and asked, "Do you think the strawberries will be ready soon?" "Maybe in a few weeks," I said. "Why excited?" He nodded, eyes wide. "I want to give the first one to you." That moment. I'll carry it forever. Because it was everything I'd been craving from my own parents for years. That simple, thoughtless gesture of love. No conditions. No guilt. Just his way of saying, "You matter." And in that moment, I didn't feel like the forgotten son, or the steady backup plan. I wasn't the provider or the fixer or the one expected to carry everyone else. I was just his dad. And that was enough. I used to think I needed my parents to acknowledge me. That if they ever finally said thank you or sorry, I'd feel whole. But now I know, I don't need their apology to heal. I don't need their guilt to feel justified. I don't even need their presence to be at peace. Because my life is full. Not loud or extravagant, but full. There are pancake Sundays. Science museum adventures. Balcony gardening. Books at bedtime. Soccer in the park. And hot cocoa with too many marshmallows. There is love. There is peace. There is joy. And there is no longer space in this life for people who see my son as less than. So when people ask if I regret what I did at that restaurant, splitting the bill, walking out, cutting them off, I tell them no. I only regret not doing it sooner. Not because I wanted revenge. But because I wanted freedom. And I found it. In the quiet. In the ordinary. In my son's laugh. In his outstretched hand holding a juice box, without fear of it being taken away. In the small, extraordinary life we've built, just the two of us. And that's everything.